So we are almost at the end of our recording of how to answer an exam paper in 10 easy steps, and we come to our step 10. Now, our step 10 is one that will actually flow very nicely after all the steps that we have done, and that is your presentation. As a result of all the previous steps that we have done, you will notice that your presentation will flow very nicely. In the previous step, I explained to you to look at your workings and to cross-reference your workings, and the main reason for this is so that you can make the marker's life easier, leave an audit trail for the marker to follow. So clearly that brings us to presentation, and if I am doing cross-referencing, if I am doing my performance correctly, what you will notice is automatically your presentation will also come up as good. So looking at the extract of the answer that we had done in our step 8, what we see is that if I look at my answer, I have a set type of presentation here. I'm saying I've got question 1, Peter Chic, a nice proper label. The examiner knows on each page what question I have answered on this page. And then I have written part A, income tax computation, and I have made a list, and again what I've done is I've cross-referenced my work, and this is all part of your presentation really. And what you see is that for the marker, a good presentation is pleasing to the eye, and the marker feels, yes, this is a strong candidate. This candidate knows what he's doing. He's done his planning really well. He's practiced questions previously very well, and your work is nicely set out. So we have seen how we presented our work, how we presented our income tax computation, and to summarize what we learned from step 10 is that presentation is key because it will be critical to your exam success. Remember what I said, make the marker's life easy. Take the effort to make your presentation look nice. Space out your work. Don't try to squeeze things into a small bit of paper. I always say, don't look to save paper in the exam. Space your work out clearly so that you don't have to scribble into tiny spaces. If your presentation is nice and flowing and you've got enough space, you won't get stressed out in the exam. Your presentation will look good, and when the marker sees that, the marker will say, right, this is a strong candidate. He or she knows what they're doing, and they're leading me nicely into their answer. And the marker will feel comfortable in his chair, and he'll start rewarding you the marks then. So keep your presentation very neat, and this will get you some very easy marks. If you remember your performers was your checklist for your presentation, and sometimes what you will find is that you will gain some very easy marks just by keeping a good presentation. So, to summarize the 10 steps that we had, the first thing that we did was we started bottom up and we looked at our requirement. What did the requirement ask for? What was required in the question? Income tax payable, capital gains tax payable, consequences. By just looking at the requirement, we were able to tell ourselves what is it that we are going to be doing with the question. The next one we had was the clock, telling ourselves how much time have we got to spend on that question. Have I got 5 hours? No, I haven't. I've got 3 hours. Within those 3 hours, I've got to answer a set number of questions, and every question has a different mark weighting. I will use the mark weighting. I will use the 1.8 minute per mark rule to find out how much time I have. Step 3, I will look at the instruction in the question. Is it asking me to calculate? Is it asking me to advise? The instruction in the question will determine how much detail I need to go into. Step 4 that we had is we would read the question, and while we are reading the question, we would also do the step 5, which is making notes for ourselves, so that when it comes to answering our question, our notes will be a good guide for us. And what you will find is if you've made your notes, answering your question will flow in very easily, very nicely, and very smoothly for you. And then we have our step 6, which is our empty shell, our proformas and our formats, which act as a good checklist for us to be able to determine what is it that we will be putting down on our answer sheet. This leads us to our step 7, which is planning. Plan your answer. Your answers. Your question is asking you for the income tax payable. You know that you're going to have to do a lot of calculations behind the scenes, so make sure you've separated your workings. Make sure you've left enough space for yourself to calculate the income tax payable that has been required in the question. That leads us to step 8. Go in, dive in, do the numbers. You had made rough notes, now put it down neatly. Do the calculations now on your exam. Do the calculations now on the answer paper. Step 9 told us we had to work on our workings, on our cross-references, leaving an audit trail for the marker to follow, so that we're trying to make it easy for him. Make his life easier, he will make it easier for you to pass. And this leads us to our step 10, making sure that our presentation is correct, and we have done a nice presentation which is easy on the eye. We're being nice to the marker here now, and we want to be able to get the maximum, juice him from the maximum marks that you can get out of the marker. So be nice to him. A lovely presentation will make the marker feel comfortable in his seat, and he will be ready to give some marks to you. So this is how we answer an exam standard question in 10 easy steps. I hope this has been very helpful for you, and good luck with your F6 exam.